Hello and welcome back to Round the Table, slow TV radio from the meeting point, broadcasting not only to Bilbao but throughout the world. Hello, it's episode 75, and this week our topic was waste. Wasting water, wasting resources, wasting food, wasting petrol, and wasting electricity. So why are these big companies allowed to leave the lights on all night long and through to the next morning? And they tell us not to leave the television on standby and we have to use energy-saving light bulbs. But these big companies can illuminate the world all night long. In this week's programme we have some phrases that came up this week. We have some typical mistakes, some what's the difference questions, which we haven't done for a while. And of course, we have your favourite man, the celebrity guest speaker, all the way from sunny California. So first, some of the phrases that came up in conversation this week. To beat around the bush is an expression which we use when somebody is talking about every other thing apart from the thing they are supposed to be talking about. When somebody avoids saying something directly, maybe because they feel uncomfortable talking about it, or they would just like to delay discussing the topic, and they talk about all these other things. And they don't get to the point. This is the next phrase. To get to the point is what you would tell someone if they're beating around the bush. You would say, come on, get to the point. Say the thing you want to say. So to beat around the bush is to avoid the topic, whereas to get to the point is to go directly to the topic. To put on a brave face. If you put on a brave face, it's to pretend that there is no problem. Sometimes you might be very worried about something, but you don't want other people to know about your concerns. So it's to pretend that everything is okay, to put on a brave face. A drop in the ocean is a positive thing, but it's a very small positive thing which probably won't make any difference. Like not using plastic bags in the supermarket. There's so much packaging that you buying a plastic bag or not buying a plastic bag does not really make a great deal of difference. It's a nice idea, the thought is there, but it's not really going to make any difference because it's very insignificant, let's say. So we might say it's a drop in the ocean. To go against the grain is to behave in a way which is not the normal way to behave. It might be unexpected for your normal, typical behaviour, or it's just not the way other people would do it. So it's a little bit awkward, or sometimes you might use it for someone who just wants to be a bit different in their behaviour and not be like other people. It actually comes from woodwork. A piece of wood has these lines. The pattern in the wood, it goes in one direction, and that's called the grain. And if you're cutting wood, it's easier to go with the grain than working against the grain. So that's why to go against the grain means to be difficult or awkward. And now we've got two more here that are very similar. What's the use of, or what's the point of? You can use in instead of here. So we might say that this means why, or what is the value of doing something? Is there any need to do something? Does it make any difference? So what's the use of, or what's the use in? What's the point of, or in? And you also hear there's no use, there's no point. those kind of phrases. Which brings us on to the typical mistakes. If you're using what's the use of or what's the point of, or you can use in, as I said, if you're finishing on that preposition, it must be followed by an ing. So what's the use of saving petrol? What's the point in cycling to work? So it will always be followed by an ing. I heard this week there's no use to do something. Okay, so you don't want a to infinitive there. It's always going to be an ing. Something else I've heard a few times. This that you're listening to now is called a podcast. It's not a postcard. A postcard is a very different thing. You master a language. Okay, you master a language. You do not dominate and you do not control. We don't say dominate a language. There's no reason why we don't, but we just have the word master. It means the same thing, really, but the phrase that we use is to master a language. Here's another typical mistake that I hear all the time. A small one, or it was a stupid mistake. This is because words like small, stupid, school, etc., you tend to put a little e in front of it. So a word like small, you say small. And then because you put the e there, you change a to an, because we always have an in front of a vowel. But there is no vowel. It's a small one, a stupid mistake, a school, etc. Another one here that I've heard surprisingly regularly recently, didn't came back. This kind of phrase, when you've got a past tense, especially with a past, didn't is in the past tense, in the negative form, you see. Came, we don't need that in the past. That should be the bare infinitive. Didn't come back. He didn't come back. So didn't is the negative past form. So once you've got a past with didn't, you don't need it on the verb. So didn't come back. Here's another favourite. I was to Bilbao, or he was to Paris. This is the fui problem in Spanish, because that could translate as was. But I went to Bilbao. He went to Paris. You could say he was in Paris, which is not the same as went. Okay, there is a difference between he went to Paris and he was in Paris. So make sure you don't get those two mixed up. Okay, shall we move on to a bit of what's the difference? We haven't done any what's the difference for a while. A few of these are familiar old ones. Here is your list of 6 what's the differences for this week. You can pause the video if you want to and see if you can score some points here. Some of these will be very familiar to you. So let's go through them as quickly as we can. Client and customer. Client and customer. Usually a client would buy a service and a customer would buy a product. So in a shop, you probably have customers. Clients tend to be in offices. So if you are an architect or you work in advertising or in the legal profession, you probably have clients. Whereas if you're actually selling something, you have customers. That's the general rule. Stressed and stressful. The person feels stressed. Your job is stressful. The job is stressful and you feel stressed. Comfortable and convenient. There's often one Spanish word that you use for both here. Comfortable is probably referring to your sofa or your bed. Clothes can also be comfortable if you're in a very informal way of dressing. You'll be in comfortable clothes. You have comfortable shoes that are not formal high heels. You have comfortable shoes. You could also use it for situations as well. You can have a comfortable or uncomfortable situation. Convenient means that it is easy to use, probably because of the location. So if you're talking about why you shop in a supermarket, the word you want is convenient. If you have the metro station very close to your house, that is convenient. So convenient means it's easy to use and probably because it's close to where you live. Savage and wild. There's one that we haven't seen much before. Savage is more violent than wild. Savage has to be attacking somebody. There needs to be more blood involved with savage. And normally, especially if you live in Europe, you've got wild animals. Wild animals are the opposite of domesticated animals. But you can have a savage attack if someone is attacked in a very violent way. And of course, in the past, not very politically correct now, but in the past, a lot of people who were not Europeans, people in Africa, for example, were referred to as savages. You see it a lot in old texts, old pieces of writing in the United States, for example, in the early days. The Native Americans were referred to in this very derogatory way. Rent and hire. Rent is used for buildings. If you live in a flat and you pay the owners, you rent a flat. You live in rented accommodation. Hire is probably used for when you borrow something and you give someone money for that. So you hire a car. In recent years, you do see car rental companies. So the word rent can also be used for cars sometimes. If you are talking about a flat or a house, you can only use rent, not hire. Channel and canal. These are very similar. The reason we have these two words, I think channel, we got that word from French, and canal, we got that word from Italian. A canal is always artificial. It's a man-made thing and it's used for transportation or sometimes irrigation. So the one this week we were talking about the Panama Canal. A channel is usually natural. Sometimes there are artificial channels, but the natural ones are always called channels. So the English Channel is the one that separates England from France. Okay, so a piece of water that separates two land masses is a channel. And as I say, sometimes they can be artificial, but usually the artificial one will be called a canal. Which led us on to another question. Why do we have TV channels? So I had to do some research. So the discussion on canals and channels led us to the question, why do we have a TV channel? Well, if you think of the channel as being a pathway for the water, you can also have a channel as a route for information. So if you think of the verb to channel, you can channel the water, direct it. You can also channel your energies, directing your energy towards a certain project, for example. So you can channel the information. So that is the connection between the TV channel and the channel of water. It's just a way of directing information towards people. And then we were talking about desalination plants. And quite often you hear the word plant when you're talking about a small factory or some kind of installation for processing things. And we were wondering what the connection was with plant, like the green growing thing in botany, like trees and things. They're plants. The connection is from the verb to plant. If you plant a tree, you are positioning it in a situation, you are establishing it. So the idea of the plant was to set up something permanently, like to install equipment. So that is why you have a power plant, a manufacturing plant, a sewage treatment plant, and as we discussed, a desalination plant. It means it is planted, positioned somewhere. Another one we were talking about was pool. Everyone knows pool as a swimming pool, a place where water collects. This is the key. The water collects there. We also have another verb to pool your money or to pool resources is when everyone contributes to one central place. Like if you're going out for the evening and everyone puts some money in the collection, and that's your community fund to spend during the evening. You are pooling your money. The reason it came up is because we were talking about car sharing programs or projects. Car sharing, it's sometimes called a carpool project, meaning that you're sharing your resources together. So that idea of sharing something, everyone putting their money or their resources into a central fund, it is related to pool of water, where all the water comes from different directions and collects in one place. I'm thinking more of a natural pool rather than a swimming pool, but in the natural one you can see how the water goes all towards the same direction and ends up collecting together in a pool. So pooling your resources and pooling your money is the same as the swimming pool. We were also discussing algae and seaweed. Algae or algae? It seems there are two pronunciations. The English one is more algae. Algae seems to be more American. Seaweed is the plant material that grows in the sea. For me, seaweed is a more complex life form. If you have water that's in the sunshine, sometimes it goes green. That would just be algae. It's more microscopic, say. But apparently in botanical terms, the umbrella term is algae or algae, and seaweed is part of the group of algae. So it's not just microscopic. For general people, normal speech, algae is the microscopic stuff. But if you are a botanist, seaweed is under the term algae. So all seaweeds are algae, but not all algae are seaweeds, it says here. So there you go, a bit of science for you. Algae or algae.
Hello again to all my fans over there at the meeting point in Bilbao. This is your special correspondent here in sunny California, the home of some of the world's finest wines, at least for the next few years until the water runs out. I'm sure you have all been looking forward to hearing this week's philosophical monologue on the subject of waste. So, let us begin. Waste is a huge problem in Western societies, where each person can produce more than 500 kilograms of rubbish each year. Much of this waste comes from packaging, single-use plastics, and uneaten food. This food waste represents wasted energy, land, water, and labor, and contributes to greenhouse gas emissions at every stage of the food chain. Water shortages add to the challenge. Although water feels abundant in some regions, clean water is becoming a limited resource worldwide. Agriculture uses enormous quantities of water, and many cities lose millions of liters every day through old, leaking pipes. At home, long showers and careless use of running water make the problem worse. Energy use is another area where daily choices matter. Driving short distances, leaving heating or air conditioning on unnecessarily, and relying on fossil fuels all increase our carbon footprint. A more sustainable approach involves using public transport, walking, cycling, insulating homes properly, and switching to renewable energy sources whenever possible. Modern economies also encourage a throwaway culture. Built-in obsolescence means that many products are designed to break quickly or become outdated, making replacement cheaper than repair. Fast fashion is a major contributor. Clothes are produced cheaply, used briefly, and discarded, despite the enormous amounts of water, chemicals, and energy required to make them. To move toward a lower-impact lifestyle, we need to rethink our relationship with consumption. Reducing waste, reusing materials, repairing items, and recycling responsibly are essential steps. Buying less and choosing higher quality, longer-lasting products also make a difference. Living sustainably or even carbon neutral isn't about perfection. It's about making better choices when we can. By being more mindful of how we eat, travel, shop, and use resources, we can significantly reduce our impact and help build a healthier, more responsible society for everyone.
And finally today we have some unboxing videos for you to watch. Unboxing videos are very popular apparently with younger people. So today's videos, they are a few years old, maybe 3 or 4 years old. We are unboxing or unpacking some bargains. We bought some of the special reduced offers from the supermarket Lidl to see what they had in them. And we also used the app Too Good To Go, and we got some vegetables from a local supermarket at a bargain price, and we also got some cheap leftover breakfast pastries from a local hotel. So here are the videos. See what you think. Did we get a bargain or were we ripped off? peppers. You can start filming. I'll do the videoing. They're green, aren't they?
Very green. Green. Do you think you can use that?
Yeah, I expect so.
Three Doritos.
3 Doritos.
What say you?
Right. We've got 1 red pepper in good condition. We've got 2 avocados in good condition. We've got a packet of British radishes. Seems pretty good. Yeah. Celery. British celery. Not bad. Little oranges. Easy peelers. Fun size. Seem to be in good condition. Big thing of bananas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bananas. They seem to be okay. And miniature potatoes. Also with British flags. £1.50. Okay. What do we have then?
We have some leeks. Aubergine.
Oh yeah.
Big one.
Yeah, a humorous aubergine. The one that couldn't be sold because it might scare the children.
Some apples.
Wow, that was a bit bad that.
This one's got that as well.
Oh yeah.
Bueno, hay que quitar algunos trocitos. 4 apples, yeah?
5.
5.
5 apples. Fruit, no. Tomato, no.
3 peppers. 4, 5. Oh, 6. And 2 of those peppers.
It's a bit damaged as well. We've got 2 tomatoes.
3 tomatoes. For salad. And 2 really soft tomatoes.
They've already gone, haven't they?
Yes.
No, they're going. They could be stewed, I suppose.
2
2 of those little peppers for frying.
2 old carrots.
2 carrots. Not particularly interesting.
4 pears. They are not that soft, really.
No.
They look softer than they are. And
green beans.
And broccoli.
For 3 euritos, €2.99. This one. Oops. Un bocadito. Un croissant.
A bit of tortilla then.
Tortilla. Un pastelillo. Un donete de esos. Y uno de estos. Un pat.
How much?
That's $3.50 this one.
Ooh.
Oh, and fruit. Pineapple. And watermelon. No? Ah, a melon, yeah? So,
So that was this week's discussion on the topic of waste. I hope all that was very interesting for you. The topic for discussion in the coming week will be technology. So I hope to see you all back at the meeting point. And if not, we'll see you here for the podcast. Not a postcard, a podcast. Same time next weekend. Have a good bank holiday weekend and have a good week. Till next week.